I apologize for being late tonight. Our closed session lasted a little bit longer, and we welcome all of you here tonight. We're so happy that you came down to our lovely council chamber. We hope you're enjoying the artwork, and thank you everyone at home for watching. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Termini.
Here.
Councilmember Butterworth.
Here.
Mayor Harlan.
Here. This meeting is cablecast live on Charter Communications Cable Television Channel 8 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99, and is being recorded to be rebroadcast on the following Wednesday at 8 a.m. and on Saturday following the first rebroadcast at 1 p.m. Charter Channel 71, Comcast Channel 25. Meetings can also be viewed from the city's website, www.cityofcapitola.org. Our technician tonight is Scott Gray. As a reminder, please turn off your cell phones during the meeting, and please sign your name on the sheet at the podium if you'd like your name spelled correctly for the minutes. But you don't have to do that. May we have the Pledge of Allegiance now? Everyone, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a couple presentations, and I'm actually was going to start with the Children's Cancer Awareness and Jacob's Heart. And we have some lovely, brochures and pin and some information from Jacob's Heart. Is there a representative that would like to come up? Yep.
Peter, behind you. Match up.
And as if you don't know, I'm a registered nurse. And this organization is very, very dear to my heart. Whereas, while Capitola takes pride in its place in the lifelong memories of many families, the chance to build those memories can be cut short by childhood cancer. Whereas each day 42 children in the United States are diagnosed with cancer, and more than 40,000 children undergo treatment for cancer each year. Whereas cancer remains the leading cause of death by disease among children, more than asthma, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, congenital anomalies, and AIDS combined. Whereas families of children with cancer in the city of Capitola receive essential services from Jacob's Heart Children's Cancer Support Services, a local organization that has gained national awards and recognition for improving the quality of life for hundreds of local children with cancer and their family members. Jacob's Heart holds the memories and honors legacies of hundreds of children from our local community who have been lost to cancer. The oncology department at Lucille Packard Children's Hospital at Stanford has worked closely with Jacob's Heart for the past 19 years as a trusted community partner in providing family-centered care that addresses the emotional, practical, and financial struggles of families and children with cancer in Capitola. Whereas Capitola urges its residents to recognize the impact of pediatric cancer on families within our community and to honor local children whose lives have been cut short by cancer. Now, therefore, I, Stephanie Harlan, Mayor of the City of Capitola, hereby declare September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Capitola and honor Jacob's Heart Children's Cancer Support Services for 19 years. It doesn't seem that long. I remember when you started. Outstanding support. So I don't know what else I can say, but he provides such wonderful services. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll be so brief.
You can speak as long as you
Oh, thank you. My name is Lori Butterworth, and I started Jacob's Heart in my kitchen up the road here in 1998. And the first declaration of childhood, was that the year you were born? No, 1 year later, 2 years later. Yeah. So since then, we have supported hundreds of local children with cancer and thousands of their family members. And one of my absolute heroes and dear friends in life is Emily Erickson. And I kind of put her on the spot and asked if you would just tell a little bit about your story and how you love Jacob's Heart would be great, too. Yeah.
I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was at the end of 4th grade, and then I went straight to the hospital. My family didn't know what was going on, and so Jacob Hart was there all the time behind them, and they gave them gas cards and money when they didn't have enough, and they were always there to support them. And even throughout my relapse, they were always behind my family and ready to help at any time.
So that's what we do. We really truly believe that when a child has cancer, the entire family is in need of support. And I cannot tell you, we could not have a better community here. This community has supported Jacob's Heart for we're going on our 20th year. So please go to our website, attend events, support us. Thank you, Vice Mayor, he's always just a big, contributor. So I'm just so grateful to each and every one of you and the city for the ongoing support. And unfortunately, it will be needed for years to come. So thank you. So let's all celebrate Emily and all these children who are so heroic. Thank you. Yeah.
And the really miraculous thing about the work is it wasn't being done before. We have a whole community in Santa Cruz County with very limited pediatric cancer support for the patients and their families. So you filled a need that was so needed.
And it's actually even rare across the country. There are a few organizations and a few communities that do what we do, but it really is, people don't really think about, when Jacob was first diagnosed, I remember getting the news and thinking, oh my gosh, kids get cancer? What? Are you kidding? I just didn't realize. And so once people start to realize, families don't have to feel so isolated. So Jacob's Heart really is, we've won national awards for doing a holistic set of services, and it's based on years and years of experience now. And if you all remember Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, how we all have like our fundamental needs of survival, and we do basic things like rent assistance, rides to treatment, like Emily said, gas cards. We have homeless families who have a child with cancer, not in Capitola, but in our county. And it's unheard of. So we take care of that, and we move up that pyramid to that sense of love and belonging, sense of community, a sense of connection among other people. And then we work on emotional well-being when the counseling comes in. And at the top of Maslow's pyramid, he talked about self-actualization. And at Jacob's Heart, we just call that hope, because you can go on with hope, regardless of things that happen to you, as long as those other pieces of that pyramid are addressed. So that's what we've done. And I urge you to learn more about it, learn more about the lives of these children, and it will inspire you.
And I just want to say to our new chief, you've moved to an incredible community, an incredible county. When we have needs, people get together and they form an organization like this, and then they just take off. And we have done incredible things in this county together. Absolutely incredible things to provide services and support to people and children and just so many things. So thank you.
Can I say one more thing? Yeah, I promise. Give me a microphone. So in 1999 in the park, do you remember when Harley Davidson was where Liliana's Italian restaurant is now, right? That Seabright, where that, okay. So that Harley Davidson, we did the first Kid Rageous Carnival there in 1999, and we passed a petition around that parking lot for the then Governor Gray Davis, remember him, to declare September Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the state of California. That happened here in Santa Cruz County. We did that. And I just told Emily that, and she didn't even know that we were first to do that. So in your packets, there's a copy of the original proclamation. We made copies for you. That was signed by then Governor Gray Davis, and Bruce McPherson, who was our state senator at the time, walked it into him. So this is how far back it goes. And we're pretty proud of being the first organization to have that declaration happen. And now, every year, it's national. It's even going international. So we have a lot to be proud of in this community.
Thank you for everything. Thank you all. And write a check. Write a big check. Thank you. Okay. The begonia people. And James Antonelli and Dennis Bobbitt, come up, please, too. The more the merrier. Come on, folks. Photo op. Cameras out. History in the making. It's an historical moment for Capitola and all these people that have worked so hard on begonia festivals for so many years. You want to give everybody a city pin? You get to be official members of the city with your pin. She has it. Oh, okay. You have one already, don't you? No.
Wait, you're going to get one.
I'm going to start out by just asking everyone to introduce themselves.
Only Ed Worst.
Lori Hill,
President
President of the Capitola Begonia Festival.
What do you want to hear?
Marcia Yalich. I'm the sand sculpture contest.
You are the sand sculptor. Hi, I'm Taya Luton, and I'm the Nautical Parade Chair, and we have 12 floats this year.
I'm Dave Payton, and I lead the logistics team.
Hi, I'm Linda Wadley, and I'm in charge of the Begonia mural this year, the community mural.
Willard Schwartz, Movies and 4th of July Parade. Willard Schwartz.
And Robin Gordon. I work with all these wonderful people in a last Begonia Festival.
James Antonelli, raised at the Begonia Gardens, Santa Cruz.
What are you doing now?
I'm a sales rep for Surf Products.
Do you grow begonias still in your house?
Tomatoes.
Dennis Bobbitt, Linda Bobbitt's husband, Aunt Nellie Brothers, Begonia Gardens.
Do you have begonias in your yard?
Yeah, oh yeah, a few. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
He'll sell you some seed.
Ron Catley, and I do what most of these people tell me to do. Yeah.
Juanita, and I'm a volunteer, and I have begonias growing in my house.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. Because we need to know who you are. You have done such incredible work for so long. So we have a proclamation for you, and maybe some surprises later on as the festival gets into full gear pretty soon. Whereas floral bulbs were planted in Capitola since the time of the founding of Camp Capitola in the 1870s, whereas begonias thrive in Capitola's mild climate, growers surrounding Capitola Village engaged in begonia production since the 1920s, and these local nurseries grew and supplied tubers for gardens around the world. Capitola has enjoyed a tradition of pageants that featured begonia blossoms since 1950 and has hosted the annual Capitola Begonia Festival since 1952. Internationally known local growers Brown Ranch, Antonelli Brothers, Vedderly, and Reinelt generously supplied begonia blossoms for the festival. Begonias brought enjoyment to thousands of people during each annual festival, uniting the community in decorating floats and hosting events and having lots of parties. Capitola was officially designated as the begonia capital of the world by Governor Ronald Reagan in 1967, and mail from Capitola was canceled with that motto into the 1970s. Whereas the city street signs have featured a begonia since the 1980s, now therefore I, Stephanie Harlan, Mayor of the City of Capitola, hereby designate the tuberous begonia as Capitola's official city flower. And I encourage the residents to grow and display these beautiful blossoms. So I want to present this to you and to all of you, and thank you very, very much. And if there's anything any of you would like to say, this is your opportunity. We have an audience and people at home, and just what are your feelings about you'd like to share with the Begonia Festival?
I think I'll start with these folks down here if they have anything they'd like to say.
Very happy to be part of it.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Not really. I'm not Skip.
Skip was my father.
Skip.
Yeah. But I was raised in Capitola, and basically my whole life I saw the floats and I saw the workings of everybody, and I think it's an honor that you guys made the flower, you guys' flower of the city, and that's great.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I lived here quite a long time ago, and you could see the begonia plants all year long. Beautiful area here, beautiful. Now we're getting our little pen. Thank you.
I'm Willard Schwartz. I've only been here since 1912, but excuse me, 2012. But I've been around. My son has been in here for 10 years. I was aware of the festival, but I didn't know what it was until I walked in to volunteer, and Lori was the president. And I realized at that time, this isn't about flowers. This is about a weekend. This is about an event that's basically, at that time, was world famous. So I'm just glad to be part of it. So I'm sad to see it leave. So.
My husband and I moved here about 5 years ago, and when you move to a new community, you always want to try to meet people, new people, and get involved and find out what everything's about. And I had the same experience. I went to join to volunteer for the Begonia Committee, and such wonderful people, wonderful memories, and such a wonderful event. And it's really close to my heart, as I know it is so many of ours, and I'm thrilled and honored to have been a part of it.
My family lore is that I was here during the first Begonia Festival as a one-year-old. So, true or not, I find this last one a bit nostalgic, and so certainly enjoying and the pleasure of working with these people. Thank you.
How do I follow all this? I want to extend a warm welcome and know that you all are invited, even though you haven't signed up yet. We still expect you to come on down and have fun that whole weekend. Saturday, if you want to help us apply flowers, we have a mural, and we have float builders who would welcome the public to come on in and help us out. So don't delay. It's the last day to play.
Before I have my closing remarks. I want to acknowledge Carrie Arnone with the Capitola Chamber. They have been great partners with us in the Begonia Festival. And we don't have an office, we don't have a telephone, and the Chamber tends to serve that purpose for us, as well as the warm, welcoming smile. So thank you, Carrie, and the staff at the Chamber for all that you do. First off, I am moved beyond words that both James and Dennis are here tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have any representatives of the Brown Ranch, at least none that I recognize out there, because really this is all about what you folks did and what you started in this community. And I am deeply moved that you're here. I had to write my comments down because I was afraid I was going to cry. Thank you, Council, City staff, for honoring the tuberous begonia and all that it has meant to the city of Capitola. We are here to commemorate all of the begonia-related traditions that have been at the heart of the community of Capitola for over 65 years. It is with a deep sense of gratitude to the begonia-growing families that invited all of us to enjoy the spectacle of their begonia-growing fields, the sheer beauty of lath houses filled with flowering plants, Dennis, and to pick their precious begonia blossoms for our events. All of this will be deeply missed. The Antonelli family retired several years ago. The Brown Ranch family, now known as Golden State Bulb, is retiring this year. This will be the 65th and final Capitola Begonia Festival. We've been an all-volunteer independent organization for over 50 years. Legions of volunteers and community organizers have been committed to perpetuating this community tradition. Mayor Harlan has been a part of this. Her picture is featured in the Capitola Begonia Festival history book. Thank you to all the volunteers that are here tonight. We're a small but very mighty group. And thank you for this really feel-good moment. Our communities need more of these. Join us Labor Day weekend, starting with Thursday night concert, and experience more feel-good and thankful moments at any one of the festival's 15 family-friendly and free events. And again, thank you, Council. Thank you, staff. It's an honor.
Thank you all very much. And we're going to have fun this year. Fun this year. Now we'll have a report on closed session, please.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Harlan, members of the City Council. There were two items on this evening's closed session agenda. The first was an item of pending litigation in the matter of the Friends of the Monterey Park versus the City of Capitola, Santa Cruz County Superior Court case number CV16CV01091. In that case, the council received a report from legal counsel and gave direction to staff to schedule a hearing for September 25th, next Monday, the 25th of September, at which time the council will consider rescinding the actions taken by the council at its meeting of June 23rd, 2016, to approve certification of the environmental impact report, approve project permits as amended, and approve a right of entry agreement for a skate park at Monterey Park, and to take further actions consistent with a writ of mandate issued by the Santa Cruz County Superior Court on August 4th, 2017. So that will be scheduled for a hearing at a special meeting on Monday, September 25th. The other item was a liability claim, the claim of Liberty Mutual against the City of Capitola. That item is also listed as 8D on this evening's consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Next is additional materials. City Clerk, Linda.
We received 5 items of additional materials. One for item 8E, an email withdrawing the project application. And for item 9B, there were 4 public comment emails.
Thank you very much. Next item is addition and deletions to the agenda. Are there any items?
Staff recommends removing item 8E from the agenda as the applicant has withdrawn his application.
Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any other additions or corrections? Okay, this is the time now for public comments on anything not on the agenda. If we get to that, when we get to the items on the agenda, you're welcome to speak on anything, even though it may not be a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on something else, please come up, and you have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Jeopardy, huh? Hi, my name is Ron Hart.
Put the microphone over, or you can move it.
Right there. I'm not a public speaker. I am now. But I've lived in Santa Cruz area for 47 years, and when I retired, I moved to Capitola. I've worked at Aptos High and UCSC. And my daughter, I don't know if any of you are young enough, Kim Clary, she ran the Capitola Junior Guards for 12 years here, so we're proud to be a member of Capitola. And I just wanted to come and say thank you for your service, to give you some accolades and to lift you up. And I'm a part of the faith community in Capitola and Santa Cruz, and tell you that we're praying for blessings on you, and we're praying for wisdom as you make decisions that impact our whole community. And we just wanted to say thank you. And for the police officers back there, we also are starting a program called Adopt a Cop, where police officers will be prayed for through the community, just for safety, for their families when they go home, we're praying peace over all of Capitola. So I just want to say thank you.
Pray harder for the wisdom.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Anyone else like to speak on anything? Then the next item is, oh, sorry. Good evening.
Hello. I'm just here to introduce myself. I'm the new congressional aide in Congressman Panetta's Santa Cruz office. So Kristen was lovely enough to kind of train me and help me out there. So I just wanted to say that if there's anything that our office can do to help you in the future, I'm more than happy to be that contact for you, and I will leave my card up here as well.
Is this your name, please?
Sorry. Forgot about that part. Taylor Brennis.
Great. Have you lived in Santa Cruz before?
Yes, I grew up in La Selva and went away for college, and now I'm back home. So.
Great.
Yeah.
So you know the community.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Come to Capitola anytime. We'll show you around.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. Good luck in your new job. That's going to be interesting.
Thank you.
Other public comments? Then we'll go on to City Council comments. Any announcements from City Council members?
This Friday night, the first movie from Art and Cultural is Finding Dory. It will be shown at the bandstand, so come on down Friday night.
What time?
I believe it started about 7.
Good. Anything else?
Or dark, whatever comes first, right?
Yeah. Any announcements? Kristen, do you have anything?
Nope, nothing tonight.
Let's see. Lots of activities going on, so just check your calendar, all the wonderful fun things that are happening in town. I hope you all enjoy these things. City Treasurer comments.
Nothing.
Staff comments.
I think our Public Works Director is going to give us a quick update on a project that's about to move forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to let you know that the Green Bike Lane project at the 3 interchanges is scheduled to begin next week. The contractor has got all his permits from Caltrans to do that work. And just a reminder, this project is our first project. It's a combination of city funding and the regional Measure D transportation funding. So we'll have some signs out there advertising that, and hopefully they should be starting on Tuesday. Should take them about 10 days to do the 3 intersections.
And the telephone company's been around town. They were working on Wharf Road, had that closed. They're working on 42nd today, digging big holes and putting fiber optic cables so people see trucks around it. It's a telephone company right now that's laying lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of fiber going in right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
This may also be an appropriate time to let the community know that we will be canceling our September 14th meeting. That we will be lacking a quorum. Several of our council members will be attending the State League of Cities annual event in Sacramento, and so we will not have enough folks to have a meeting, so we will be canceling September 14th and meeting again on the 28th.
Great. Thank you very much. Next item is the consent calendar. We've already taken care of E. Would anyone like to pull it for separate discussion? Members of the audience can also pull an item if they'd like to have a separate discussion. Otherwise, we take everything in one motion. They're usually relatively minor items that saves the time than having to vote on each one of them.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So if they want to do that. I can get Public Works Director up here. I have a couple of questions on 8G and 8H. Hi, Steve. 8G, the electric charging stations. I'm assuming those are level 2 chargers because of the cost that's going in there that we're replacing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the notes you put that we're going to tie the charging fee in with the payment fee. I know that they normally won't take money after 8 o'clock at night. Is there a way that those can be wired that they can charge at night?
I'll find out. I don't believe so. Oh, they can still charge at night. The payment has nothing to do with turning them on and off. So what we're going to do is we're going to be charging them through the pay stations.
Right.
And
But I thought they wouldn't accept money after 8 o'clock at night.
the pay stations won't.
Right.
But the meters will still be able to charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're going to collect the fee for parking through the charging
Yes.
machine. Okay, that was my confusion.
No. We're charging the fee for charging through the pay stations.
Okay. So
There'll be free charging at night.
So they have to. I was under the impression they were going to pay on just through one machine.
What?
I was under the impression they were going to pay for just through one machine. It would have to pay the pay machine and the parking. No, I'm
No.
confused. Just the pay station.
Yes.
Okay. But the pay stations don't take money after 8 o'clock.
So, yes, now everyone knows free charging after 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Supposed to be.
We got to put that on the scroll.
I'm okay with free charging. Okay.
Yeah. So right now we don't charge anything for the charging. You have to pay for the parking
Right, that was a new provision
So,
to generate
yeah,
that
but it's
revenue.
only going to be for the 8 hours that you have to pay for parking, which is when most of the charging occurs.
You know what? If you want to park there at night, you should get a free charge. I'm fine with that. Thank you for clarifying that. And then thank you for advertising that. Thank you. The next one, let's go to Soquel Creek. Back in May, we did a trial planting of the tule. Remember that back in May to stimulate the tidewater goby?
Yes.
And I think in my recollection, we had that got all washed out because of the.
No, I think they're still there. I mean, I have been there for a couple
Well,
of
I got to tell you, they're not there because when they were planted, I went back like after the first. We had problems because of the rains. It all got washed out.
No, they got planted after we closed the creek this year.
Okay.
So they've been planted since May.
Since May, okay, because
Yes.
the ones in May were gone, and my question was, are we going to try to replant those again?
Yeah.
And
so
because they were originally planted up by the Stockton Bridge?
No, these are right under the railroad trestle on this side of the creek.
That's where we planted them?
Yep, that's
Okay.
where we planted them. Last time I saw, they were still green.
Okay. Because the picture that you had that you sent out on the Friday notes was by the Stockton Bridge. Yeah, and they're not there. So my only thing is I thought that now that we're closed and sealed, it'd be a good time to replant that. And that was my only question. Since the Soquel Creek was on, yes, they're planted. That was my only question.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
First of all, on the item that was pulled, I would hope that our planning department has taken to heart the message that was given to us by the legal firm that challenged this and the points that they enumerated, and they should consider them carefully. I know that the application's been pulled, but it seems like Mr. Parkin has shown us some exposure we have, and we should learn by that, even though we're not going any further with it. And secondly, regarding the creek, I saw the new planting. The only downside of the new planting is it has closed off the only public access we have to the creek. I would like to consider in a future agenda item that we establish another public access where I know we have a public right-of-way, which is at the end of the path to the creek path from Riverview, and just have a place where locals can put their canoe out or raft or whatever they use to paddle down the creek, rather than the place that used to be under the trestle with a little gate that is no longer accessible because of the lovely reeds we planted. So, Thule, sorry. Unintended consequences, but thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Did you make a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay.
There's a
I made a motion.
I second it. I'll take it.
Any other discussion by council members or staff members or members of the public? Have any questions about any of these items? I'm going to abstain on A because I missed that meeting and this is an item of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item are general government and public hearings. So the first one is item A, consider Capitola Village special permit for this winter. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Harlan, council, staff. I'm here to present some information. You have the staff report that was delivered as part of the package some time ago. I'm here to present some information and specific details with regard to a new special event application that has been presented to the city of Capitola for what is now going to be called the Ice Skate Capitola. That's the first change I want to introduce. Rather than in your staff report, it was referred to as the Capitola Village on Icy special event permit. I learned today that a beautiful logo that you can see on the screen there, and the new name of the special event, if the permit is granted, is Ice Skate Capitola. The Capitola Wharf and Business Improvement Association, the BIA, has delivered this special event application, and in conjunction with the Capitola Soquel Chamber of Commerce, they are recommending that the review has taken place, and the police department is recommending or asking for your recommendation with regard to the special event permit for the Ice Skate Capitola. Some specific information about the event that will take place from December 15th through January 7th. So during the holiday season down in Capitola Village at the Esplanade. The plan calls for to erect a synthetic ice skating rink in Esplanade Park from December 15th, as I mentioned, 17, through January 7th of 2018. The purpose of the event is to provide residents and tourists with the holiday activity and draw more customers to the village businesses during this relatively quiet period of time, with the exception of the occasional bad weather in the Capitola Village during the holiday season. The rink, some of the specifics about the rink, and the map that is displayed for you is an overview, obviously, of the Esplanade, and specifically where the placement of the synthetic rink would be located there on the Esplanade. It is a plastic polymer-treated synthetic rink. The lubricant that is applied to the rink that allows for the free skating on the synthetic surface is a food grade lubricating solution that is biodegradable and not dangerous to the environment at all. The actual vendor for this rink I did some research, it's the largest vendor in the entire United States. So they will, if approved, come into our area in Capitola and erect this rink on behalf of the city of Capitola based upon the permit. The rink itself is 30 feet wide by 40 feet long. When you look at the map there, it is set up 8 feet west of the bandstand and 17 feet south of the Santa Cruz County sanitation pump. I want to thank Steve Jessberg for doing some research on my behalf, on the city's behalf, in contact with the county to make sure that this thumbprint doesn't interfere with their facility there. And in fact, they have told us that it does not. So the proposed layout there is on the screen for you to look at. The next picture I'm going to show you is a picture of an actual synthetic rink. I wish I could tell you which city this is. I don't know. But this is very similar in design to what would be erected there in the village if this permit is approved by council. You'll see there that, or within the plan, the idea is to have 29-inch tall fencing around the rink, and potentially or ideally the BIA's plan would be to attract vendors and sponsors who would place their advertisement along the fencing there, which would help offset the cost of the special event from the 15th of December through the 7th of January. The plan also calls for patio lights to be hung on rink walls and spotlights that would light up the rink at night. The skating sessions, 3 of them per day. The times for the sessions would be 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. So 3 skating sessions per day with a maximum of 40 skaters per session. There would be lighting and music turned on or heard during the skating sessions, but the permit would call, by way of a restriction, the permit would call for all of the music to be turned off by 8 p.m., which is fairly standard for us. Entry fees would be $15, including $5 for the skate rentals. The Rink vendor is Events and More. I mentioned that they're the largest in the United States. If you're wondering the name of the Rink vendor, it's Events and More. They would have staff on site to set up and dismantle the rink and operate the skate sessions, including keeping the area clean. They would also secure the equipment during the off hours in a facility that they bring on site, a temporary facility to secure the skates and other equipment that is not used during the off hours. The BIA would be billed for any staff overtime associated with the event, in addition to the permit fees. And so there is no fiscal impact on the city. From the police department's perspective, in review of similar events, and there are many of them, not too many, none in Santa Cruz County, and this, in fact, this would be the first one. There are many others during the holiday season in California. It does not draw upon a lot of police department resources, personnel resources. Of course, we would be aware, if approved, we'd be aware of the event, and we would be proactive and visible when needed and as part of our routine patrols during the time period December 15th through January 7th. I would like to recognize and not introduce, everyone knows Kari Sid from the BIA. She's here to help me answer any questions that you might have with regard to this permit application, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Are you concerned about graffiti?
I'm not concerned about graffiti for a couple of reasons. We don't see too much graffiti down in this area anyway. I think that if the fencing, 29-inch fencing, is around the rink, and there are some banners that are displayed as part of that fencing, I think that's going to be a deterrent to the graffiti. Of course, if juveniles, for some reason, are attracted to the event, there's going to be a large number of spectators and participants. I think that would also be a deterrent to graffiti activity. So at this point, I'm not concerned about it.
Any security concerns at night?
No.
Would they? And if there were, could we ask them to provide a private guard for it?
That could be a condition of the permit for sure.
Have they had any problems with these in other places at all?
I've done a limited amount of research specifically in California, Northern California and Southern California. I did not find any concerns from the police department or other city officials with regard to these types of special events, no.
Other questions, Ed?
One question. I only have one concern. I was looking at the map. There was a walkway, a rubber mat walkway that looks like by the benches, and it was only 12 inches wide, and I was just wondering why it wouldn't be larger than that, if there was a reason. It seems like 12 inches is awful narrow to walk on.
The rubber matting, I apologize, I don't know the exact dimensions of the rubber matting.
It said 1 foot.
it would need to be large enough, and maybe I'll ask Kari to provide some information on that, but it would need to be large enough for the travel of more than one person wearing skates from where they don the skates until the entrance to the rink. And so I think that 1 foot might be a little bit thin. I agree with you, Councilman Butterworth.
That's all that my drawing would allow me to do, pretty much. But I can get whatever kind of matting we need. We will be providing that. The vendor would not be providing that, but would be.
I just think if it was 2 feet, I mean, it's kind of hard to walk on 12 inches. That was the only. Otherwise, it looked.
Yeah, we can expand the rubber matting, no problem.
Other questions?
Yes. Are we charging them anything for the special event permit?
The standard fees for the event permit, and then if approved by council, the requirement for additional permits. For instance, I believe a coastal permit would be required, amplified music permit.
I think it's $31.78.
I'm just not seeing necessarily that we're going to incur any costs on this, and I think in the spirit of trying this out, maybe we should not charge the BIA anything for this special event permit.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Termini, we've been down a long road in terms of charging for special event permits, and it used to be a practice of the city to waive special event permit fees, and in the end, we ended up waiving special event permit fees for everyone. I think that there's a fair argument that nearly every special event, whether it's the Capitola Public Safety Foundation or Chamber of Commerce or the BIA, could make that their special event was deserving of a waiver of fees.
I understand, and I voted in favor of charging all those fees, believe me. But that was more to do with us incurring costs. I mean, there's no doubt that the Art and Wine Festival incurs tremendous costs in the city. But something like this is so benign, so small, and it's a tryout situation that I just don't see where we're incurring any costs with this happening. Staff costs.
There'll be public works costs.
In what way?
Well, there's going to be more people.
More trash to
40
empty.
people, and definitely trash. We're always impacted by trash. I mean, it may not be the entire value, but.
We don't charge Piece of My Heart for trash, so.
What about a reduced rate?
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it? What do you anticipate is the cost to the city for this event?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Termini, so the special event permit fees are relatively minor, and I think, I don't know if they were estimated in the staff report, but I don't think that they would be too significant. My suggestion, if you were looking for a reduced fee process, as the chief alluded to, this project would need a coastal development permit, which would be issued by the Planning Commission. And in general, to get in front of the Planning Commission, it runs approximately $2,000, $1,000. So that is a fee that they would be paying, and without messing with your special event and sort of setting a precedent about waiving the fees, you could direct staff to process the coastal development permit pro bono, which would probably have a more significant impact on the applicant.
Sounds great.
Other questions? This is a public hearing, and anyone in the audience have any questions about this Ice Skate Capitola program? Good evening.
Madam Mayor, Council, Bob Egren here. Did have some questions and concerns. Number one is the insurance. I'm sure that has gone an issue that should be addressed and brought up. I don't know if the city is liable at all should something happen, and that should be a number one concern. The other concern, or the other issue is, I believe Monterey has a similar program like this every year, and I'd like to find out how they operate it.
I've actually seen it.
Have you?
Yeah, they have it down there at the plaza in the wintertime.
Is it synthetic ice?
I thought it was real ice. I think it's real ice. Yeah, and it was popular and very nice.
It's not by the same company, Events and More. Different? Okay. The other thing is, I've been in rinks like this in a foreign country, and one thing I noticed is they always set a time frame apart for young kids. Because when you get young kids out there, say under 8, and older teenagers and adults, the little kids get clobbered. So I would recommend taking, what is the session, 2 hours? Taking maybe the first 30 minutes for little kids, just maybe under 8, something like that. And that could be handled by the group, I guess. That's all.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak on this issue? Now close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Okay.
what?
Maybe not.
We'll take another public comment if you'd like to speak.
Sure. Thanks for having us, and thanks for entertaining this idea. I'm Kari Sid, and I can address some of the questions that came up just from the last comment, specifically around the ice skating rinks in the area. Monterey does do a real ice skating rink, and it was sponsored by private, not by any other public or nonprofit entity, and they will not be having it this year. It is the first year that they will not be having one in a very long time. It has to do with construction that the city's doing in an area where they use for something else, and they're going to use the area of the ice skating rink, and that hotel needs it this year, and so they won't be having that ice skating rink.
Doing a major remodel there.
They're doing a major thing, yes. So that's one area, and I did talk to the folks who brought that ice skating rink extensively about how they did it and about their liability. The company that is doing the rink is actually hosting the entire rink. They're setting it up, they're bringing in staff, and so they will carry the liability and name the city and the BIA and the chamber in their liability clause. If they did not do all of the support systems, we would have to have secured our own insurance, and so that we are not doing that because we're having them handle the whole thing. I appreciate you guys considering this year. Thanks.
By the way, did you have any other great ideas that you were talking about doing? And this is the one that everybody liked the best. Do you have any other ideas you could share with us that you're thinking about?
I have alternatives should you say no.
Okay. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Then close the public hearing and bring it back to the council, Mike.
I've been dying to see this happen for about 10 years, and seriously, until they came out with a synthetic surface, it was not economically feasible, and Kari's done an amazing job spearheading it. I would move this recommendation in addition to waiving the Planning Commission fees for the coastal permit. And I would also, as a sidebar, say that if the council goes forward with the redesign of Esplanade Park, and this is successful, there could be a significantly larger rink in years to come. So, motion on the floor.
We could free plummet for ice.
Do that too.
Someone like to second it?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck. We're looking forward to it. Something new and different and innovative, and I think young and old will have a good time doing it.
It's like this is the chief show tonight.
Yeah. Good luck.
Okay, B, red light photo enforcement contract. Very exciting topic, but very important. Do we have pictures, slideshow?
Both.
Mayor Harlan, Council, the second item that we are going to present this evening is consideration for extending our red light photo enforcement contract. Our recommendation is for Council to approve a 2-year extension of the current 5-year contract, which expires in December of this year. As you're well aware, the City of Capitola has operated a photo enforcement program beginning with the intersection of 41st and the main entrance to the mall, and currently that intersection as well as 41st and Claire's since 2005. The 2012 agreement was extended, as I mentioned, by 5 years. Began in 2005. 2012, Council agreed to extend it by 5 years, and the contract allows for a 2-year extension option if approved by the Council. And our recommendation of staff is that we approve, or I'm sorry, that you approve the 2-year extension for the photo enforcement program for many of the reasons that Sergeant Andy Daly, by way of a PowerPoint presentation, is going to discuss with regard to the program itself, how it works, basic introduction of how it works, or probably a reminder for most of you, and then the clear data and our clear opinion on the police department side with regard to the safety of those intersections as a result of the program that's been in existence since 2005. So I'd like to introduce, or I'd like to invite Sergeant Daly to the podium to do the PowerPoint presentation. Andy.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening. Mayor Harlan, Vice Mayor Torini, and council members and staff. As you know, I'm a sergeant with the police department, and I'm here tonight to discuss the presentation of the red light program. I'll start with a brief overview. We'll talk about the locations, current locations, some of the statistics concerning collisions prior to the installation of the program, and then we'll talk about since the installation. We'll look at the violation overview. We'll talk a little bit about the fines and the court fees, some costs associated with the program, and then a conclusion. So, get going. That's probably fine. Okay. So, real quick, a little background is that, I mean, obviously for Capitola, traffic remains a major concern for our community. The police department works towards the philosophy, we call it the 3 E's. It encompasses three things. One, the first thing is education. Education is all about the public awareness. This would be a good example of the public awareness. We also participate in state and local campaigns with regards to traffic safety. And then also, education also goes into when an officer makes a traffic stop and gives a notice or warning to someone. The second thing surrounds engineering, which is working with the built environment towards traffic calming measures. We work with the Public Works Department. The red light program is a great example of a engineering concept. Another example is the stop sign that's over here in front of the police department. It's another engineering concept or design. And then finally is enforcement, which works directly towards changing a driver's behavior. So the red light program actually encompasses all three aspects of our philosophy. Real quick, the chief kind of mentioned that the program started in 2005. The first citation was actually issued in 2007 after some looking at what location would be preferable for the program, and then there's a lot of work to get it set up and actually running. Currently, the city's in partnership with American Traffic Solutions, which is out of Phoenix. And like the chief mentioned, that our current contract was signed in 2012. It's a 5-year term with an option for a 2-year extension. Our current program, we have 2 red light intersections. They're the southbound approaches on 41st Avenue. The first one is going to be at Burger King, and so that's the intersection of 41st and Claire's. And then the second approach is southbound approach is 41st Avenue at the main mall entrance. Real quick data as far as on the far left there, you can see this was prior to the red light installation. This is the collision data. And then the next 5 points is what is for this contract period. So you can see that prior to it, the collisions were 25 and 19, and now we've reduced it all the way down to 2 to 3. There was a period that there was some higher collisions. I know Public Works did some other adjustments to that intersection as far as right turn, no right turn during a certain period of time, and also the median played a role in that. This data, like I said, represents the current contract. It also, this pattern is consistent with the red light program. So I don't want you to think that it was higher in the years prior, but since the program, it's definitely reduced collisions. During this period, traffic collisions have dropped 74% at the intersection of 41st and Claire's, and 94% at the intersection of 41st and the Capitola and the mall entrance.
Is that an average data, or is that just 1 year? That high bar, is that 2005?
2005 that was prior to.
So do we have 2004 and 3?
And it was consistently high. Thank you. And that was one of the reasons when we looked at adopting this program is where we'd have the greatest impact. So real quick, this is an overview of what the officer sees when we get a red light citation. Like I said, there's multiple views. So what I did is I enhanced one of the views. And you can see that this is the southbound approach. Burger King's on the left-hand side. And the silver Honda is actually the violating vehicle.
Is it like red or green there?
What's that? Okay, so if you look at the top, it starts with the far upper left-hand corner. It looks at the date. The time, so the date is May 13th. The time is 6:46 p.m. And then you look. The next thing is it says the speed. So it actually it gives the speed of the violating vehicle, which is 19 miles an hour. And then a phase, the R is for red, for the red violation. And then the R time is actually the time that the light's been red. So the light's been red for 8.6 seconds. And it's a near miss with the bicyclist.
So that car went straight, or was it turning right?
Straight through.
Oh, oh, yeah.
Right, so
Almost hit him.
Okay. So that's an example of the citation. As far as California goes, California is a driver liability state. So in other words, the fine is associated with the driver. So we have to take the still photographs are taken by the driver, the front plate and the rear plate, and there's also a videotape of the violation. Citations are sent to ATS. They are reviewed there, and then they're sent to the police department through our computer system, and then they're actually viewed by an officer, and then the officer will decide to issue a ticket or not issue a ticket. Once the ticket's sent, it gets sent to the court for processing and then sent to the driver. So this diagram actually shows the blue is what each we call them events. So when there's a potential violation, we call that an event. They're processed by ATS. Those are the blue marks. Starts in 2011. Then you look at 2016. I'll concentrate there. So for 2016, we had 6,600 events. Of those events, we issued 820 violations. So those are the ones that the officers did. Real quick, as far as the repeat, well, let's see. Let me back up. So this 820 violations represent about 12% of the events. Currently, the repeat offender rate is really low at only 3%. So it shows that that's changing driver behavior. And then another point is since the program started, only 5% of Capitola residents have received red light violations. So I think that's an important statistic as well. Real quick, as far as data-wise, of the 820 violations, 383 were straight through, 311 were a right turn, and then 125 were a left turn. Real quick, as far as the cost of the program, we through ATS, it's $5,100 per approach, so per intersection. We operate 2 intersections, so it's $10,200 plus a $295 fee. So the total per month is $10,495. We're billed biannually, and this is the most important thing, is that we're on it's called a flexible payment plan. So if the city does not receive revenue specifically to red light violations, we do not have to pay. The city only pays what is received from the courts. And then we also back out any overtime costs that are incurred for us testifying or if they review the citations on overtime. To date, we have never, the revenues generated from the red light has never gone over the $10,500. So it's been a cost-neutral program for the city. And it's always a question is how do they get to the fines? So the city does not dictate the fine amounts. That's actually done by the state of California and the county of Santa Cruz. So for a red light violation, it's $496. A red light violation, if the person decides to go to traffic school, it bumps it up to $541. And of that fine, the city receives 30%, which is approximately $147. Like I said, the city does not dictate how much we get. That's all comes down from the state and the county. So the violator has an option to either pay the violation, opt for traffic school. They can fill out an affidavit of non-liability, or they can contest the citation. All the citations are actually, if you do receive a citation, it'll actually come with a photo and then a link to a video so you can actually watch the violation. And then I wanted to just kind of hear this last. So pay attention to a couple things. That you're going to see the traffic signal on the right-hand side, and in the center lane, that's what we want to draw your attention to. So this is, quick setup, this is 41st Avenue entering the mall. Cycles to red.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't stop, turns right.
Whoa. Whoa. So that's that's the video that you can they can see, and the officer will see as well. So real quick to summarize, the red light program is a vital component to our traffic safety plan. The statistical data supports the fact that it is reducing collisions on 41st Avenue, and so our recommendation is to extend the current contract with ATS for a period of 2 years. And I'm open for any questions.
Do we use much overtime in this program? Is it much of a burden on the department or a burden on staff to review these films and send the tickets on?
So there's 2 officers that are, the motor officers are actually assigned to review the citations. There is some overtime if they have to go to court or if they have to stay late to review the violations, because we do have a time period to actually approve them in. The overtime actually for this last 6-month period was 0, which is not normal. And so, like I said, there is some overtime, but that's actually backed out of whatever fees that we receive from the court.
Other questions?
Yeah, could you explain how it's cost neutral again? The $10,000 and going over that, doesn't that all go to ATS up until $10,000?
Correct.
So how does that cost neutral?
So, the fees themselves, only the fees that come from the red light violation. So the city doesn't have to pay out anything. The fees that we do receive from the courts regarding red light violations, if it doesn't reach that $10,500, essentially, that money then goes to ATS.
So ordinarily, if there was a policeman issuing that money wouldn't go to ATS, it would go to our county and city.
Correct.
So aren't we losing that money?
I guess it just depends on how you look at it. I don't think we're not losing it.
We're not gaining any.
We're not gaining anything.
I think it was, the program was started when Councilmember Nickel asked for things that we could do that wouldn't take police force resources. So we would literally have to devote a patrol car to that intersection throughout all shifts to capture these violations. So what we've done is we've improved safety, we've captured violations, it doesn't cost the city any money, and it makes it safer. So that's the revenue neutral part. It doesn't cost us anything, and we catch the violations.
So the money we save is the money of not having to patrol that. So instead of paying for the policeman, hourly, whatever. Okay, so that's how it becomes neutral.
Yeah.
I have a question about the contract extension time. So if it's 2 years now, what happens after that? Do we?
So then we would be up to negotiate another contract at that point.
Okay.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public have any questions about this? This is fascinating to see those videos. Be sure and contact Councilmember Bertrand to show it to him, make a point of calling him, because that's very interesting to see those videos.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Very good presentation. I have a question on the fines for running a red light if it's not in the red light camera. In other words, what would be the typical fine for running a red light in the county somewhere without a camera? Exactly the same. Okay. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. The only other concern I would have was I can't believe this would be the only company that's doing this, and have we searched for other companies that might be more cost effective?
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to talk about this issue? Then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
I have one question. Is there anything on the sign? I know there's a red light enforced camera sign there. Is there anything on that sign, I confess I've never noticed, that tells the people what the fine is? Is it on there? Do you think $500 would make people pay attention? Maybe it is on there and I just don't know it.
I've seen them on other ones. I can't say if it's on ours or not.
Yeah, I've seen them in Santa Clara.
So this is a sign that indicates it does not show the fine amount because the fine amount does change. It has changed throughout the program.
How about one that says a lot of money? I don't know.
And I will say that red light, red light violations are one of the highest fines there are because of
the danger.
The hazard. Yeah.
You know, I've seen it blink when nobody was doing anything, it seemed like, or when they had stopped and made legal right turn. Does it blink erroneously sometimes?
So just, like I said, without getting too technical with it, what happens is that there's sensors as a vehicle approaches, and if it's coming at a high rate of speed, and the system anticipates that it's a probable violation, it will kind of activate and it'll capture that event. What happens when that event gets sent to ATS, they triage it and kind of wash the ones that aren't events out.
And then in addition, there's that further level of triage at our shop, and only 12% of the ones that come from ATS actually get issued term tickets. So just because you see the camera go, the odds of actually a ticket being issued are...
Now, is that because the cameras are inaccurate or capturing something inaccurately, or it's just too close to call?
Good breaks.
No, so the system itself will capture all violations. They get sent then, and then they go through a list of different things, whether or not we have to identify the driver. Is the photo quality good enough for court? And then finally, there's a physical officer that will view the violation and determine, and that's where their discretion comes in, whether or not they'll issue a citation. So if it's a slow roll through the right, like a right turn on red, and it's a slow roll and there's no other impact, the officer just through our historical data shows that they will not issue that. Now, if there's something else involved where they are on a cell phone or there's some other impact, like I said, the officer case by case looks at them and then will decide whether or not to issue.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Very, very good, very interesting. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to adopt staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very, very much. That was very good work and very, very interesting, important work. 9C, drones.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
So over the past several years, unmanned aircraft systems, or more commonly known as drones, have become increasingly popular, and the industry's experienced an expanding market and skyrocketing sales. Drones have many common applications these days, most notably in the military, commercial applications, municipal agencies for a variety of public safety and inspection services, and then probably the biggest or the fastest growing segment in the recreational market. Just to give you an idea of the growing popularity, in 2014 there was approximately $609 million market for drones. That's anticipated to grow to $4.8 billion over the next 4 years. This past holiday season they estimated that approximately 1 million drones were sold as gifts for the recreational models. Retailers like Amazon and Walmart are exploring using drones for commercial services to deliver packages, and then there's also a growing number of federal, state, and local agencies who are using drones for public safety and various aerial surveillance purposes. The increased popularity, though, however, has created a number of issues with drones. There's been near-miss collisions with other aircraft and the drones. There's been interference with emergency services like wildfires or other traffic incidents. There's even been a couple incidents of drones landing on the White House lawn and on other secure spaces. And then the incident we hear most often is invasion of privacies, with drones flying over beaches, swimming pools, or trying to peer into the windows of residences. In response, a lot of agencies in California and across the country have considered or are adopting regulations to control drone usage in their jurisdictions. So in terms of drone regulatory authority, the military and commercial drones are regulated by federal agencies, generally the FAA, and the military ones by the DoD. Recreational drones are where we as a local agency could get involved if we wanted to. The one thing that we would have to steer clear of is that any local regulations may not preempt or conflict with adopted FAA rules. Some agencies as well have been adopting policies or ordinances to establish rules to use municipal and public safety drones for their own purposes. So there's a lot of approaches that have been used to regulate drones, all the way from an outright ban to using recreational drones in a jurisdiction to more limited restrictions. Some of the common regulations that we encountered during our research were limiting drone operations to daylight hours, prohibiting any kind of interference between drones and emergency service operations, banning operations beyond the line of sight of the operator so that the person that's controlling it is actually can be seen from where the drone is flying, requiring permission from private property owners to fly over their property, prohibitions of flying over designated public spaces like beaches or an amusement park, and then restricting how close drones can fly near the general public. As you may be aware, the City of Santa Cruz is currently evaluating some of these very issues. They're looking at regulating recreational drones, and the fire department simultaneously is reviewing options to adopt an administrative policy for municipal drone usage. In Capitola, drones have not created a significant problem. The police did run a report for total calls of service over the last 2 years. There were 11 calls of service. 8 of those were last year, 3 in the previous year, indicating there might be growing concerns as we get more drones in our skies. Most of those relate to privacy concerns, again, flying over private property or public spaces, and 2 of those calls were simply inquiries asking what the city or how they regulate drones. A few pros and cons for you to consider as you debate whether or not the city of Capitola should pursue a drone ordinance or regulations. Some of the pros are that it would establish well-defined rules for citizens that want to use drones in the city. We could certainly address any concerns we have with public safety and privacy, and it would enable us to issue citations for people that use drones improperly. Some of the cons are that there's some ongoing uncertainty with how the federal government and state regulations will evolve to regulate drones. The FAA a number of years ago adopted new regulations for drones. Those have since been overturned by Supreme Court, and so there's a lot of uncertainty with the regulatory framework that will be coming at the federal and state level. There are the preemption concerns I touched on earlier to make sure that any local ordinance does not overreach and encroach into the federal regulations. And then perhaps more importantly is there are concerns about enforcement. It's very difficult to enforce these due to the ambulatory nature of the drones. They can very quickly leave a scene, and oftentimes you can't see the operator where they're at. So actually finding that person, issue a citation, can be very challenging. And that in turn could set unreasonable expectations from our citizens that think we may be able to go out there and easily cite or stop improper drone usage. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions, and the police chief is here to assist as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd be curious to know how many people around town have seen them, but they didn't report it or ask a question about it because they didn't think about that. I wonder how many we really have around town. Questions of council members? Mike?
Besides Santa Cruz working on this, is anyone like City of Monterey, Seaside, Marina, any other coastal cities come up with anything?
I'm not aware of a city in California that's actually adopted a drone regulation. I wrote the draft that has been kicked around by the fire department for the city of Santa Cruz based on a model that was adopted by the city of Chicago, Illinois, which was kind of considered the template of a comprehensive drone ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been cities in the past year, because that draft ordinance has been kicked around for some time, that have considered drone regulations in the meantime. I think the city of San Clemente had actually introduced an ordinance regulating drones in April of 2016, and then never brought it back for final adoption. So I don't think there's a lot of good precedent. Santa Cruz is a little bit unique in that the boardwalk has expressed a particular interest in having drones regulated, particularly in proximity to their moving amusement rides, and so there's a particular public safety concern with respect to that, and that was part of the impetus for at least bringing the draft or preparing a draft, but it hasn't been presented to the City Council yet.
Thank you.
Other questions? This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this issue of the city considering developing a drone ordinance?
I'd like to speak.
Oh, yes.
As a member of the public.
Yes.
So if this hasn't been an issue of a large complaint or public outcry, and there hasn't been a demonstrated safety concern, I know we can make an ordinance, but just because we can, do we need to? Shouldn't we wait until this is an issue? Do we have to overregulate our population?
Thank you. Any other comments? Good evening.
Hi. Yeah, drones are really interesting. I have noticed a few down in the village over the past year, but I don't think it's at a point now where it's annoying anybody. The most annoyance I get is the noise. But I know they're developing some new drones with very quiet silence, but I don't think it's a real issue right now, and I'd hate to see us impose an ordinance that can't really be enforced at this point. I think it's just, I would put it on the shelf and see what happens with some other cities.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak? Then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. I noticed some drones, or a drone last year at the Begonia Festival flying low around the floats.
We contracted a drone to take pictures, as well as at the car show. We contracted someone to actually do drone footage of the crews coming into the car show. So those drones, flying as low as they were, had a specific purpose and had a beneficial nature. And I would have to agree with the two speakers. At this time, we don't want to be in the forefront of crafting a drone ordinance, and wait and see. And certainly, we can certainly respond to isolated complaints of privacy. If someone is flying a drone and it's looking into someone's window, most certainly they're going to call the police and ask for something. But a few calls for service, and two of them being just questions, I just don't see the need to bog us down in another ordinance. Just my thoughts.
I pretty much agree with Councilman Termini. I know that someday we're going to have to address a drone ordinance. I can see exponentially it's going to get to where there probably will be a problem. I know that they're used, especially on coastal cities, for doing real estate appraisals, so people can get a vantage point that's not accessible in regular neighborhoods. So I know there's a positive. I also know that I have some concerns about just, in addition to privacy, security. So I think the prudent, everybody seems to have touched on it. This is something I think we need to let evolve. I'd like to see a couple other cities come up with a couple plans and see how they're implemented, and then let us tag onto those rather than waste staff time trying to do this now. I don't think the numbers are there.
I agree. I do see that we will need to address this at some point in the future, but as mentioned, probably not necessary right now. In fact, one of the members of the citizens group that's looking at the erosion on Depot Hill Bluff uses drones to take video of the erosion and compare it to previous videos, and it's been really beneficial. So I agree that if there's any concerns or problems with drones in terms of privacy, that those can be addressed as they come along, and perhaps once it's determined that it's a bigger issue, then that's something that we can look into.
I was on a job where a roofing contractor brought a drone out. Instead of clambering up on this commercial building with a tile roof, did his roof inspection from the ground, then prepared a bid. So
I'd kind of like us just to follow it, just because I think it will be a problem here. I want to be ready to go when it happens. When people are down here yelling at us about, privacy issues and stuff like that, we can say, yeah, we've been following it, and yet, pull out something from another city and get ready to go.
Maybe we can direct Tony to just stay on top of, he'll be the first one to know.
Something simple, easy, and also it's going to, of course, involve public education to tell people that, no, you may complain, we may not be able to find the person, so, we're concerned about it, but it is going to be a tough one to address. Okay, any action tonight? Just receive as information. Okay, the next item is item D, the general government discussion of youth membership on city advisory boards, and I wanted to welcome Central Fire Chief Steve Hall. Thank you very much for coming tonight. If you want to say anything about drones, you're welcome to, or anything else, any advice you can give us for what your department needs and how they can help you with seeing fires or not, and where you might see it might be a privacy issue, and give us some guidance of where to go with this.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It's good to be back. I took a small time off. I had a fractured foot that I was on crutches and couldn't really get around for a few weeks. We do use drones in the fire service. Locally, Central Fire has a drone that we use for photography. CAL FIRE is pretty much our mainstay for drone regulations. We do enact what we call TFRs, or temporary flight restrictions, in the event of a fire up in the wildland areas. You're not allowed to fly a drone into a fire or around a fire. Can they be shot down or taken down? We don't recommend that, but yes, they can, because it impacts the aircraft that are actually trying to fly around and put those fires out. We are, in fact, watching from a fire district association in California drone regulations, because this has become a mainstay. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of drones out there on every emergency incident that we go on, especially the larger fires. So we'll keep you posted, and we'll keep staff posted, and I appreciate working with the city attorney and seeing what we can come up together on that.
Is there, if we did have a problem with somebody's drone, is there anything electronically you can get to zap it to make it come down or anything?
There is technology out there right now that you can bring down a drone, and the chief and I were just discussing that. So it's out there. But enforcement is going to be extremely tough for our city and our district as well.
What's the smallest size that you probably would have seen around here that hobbyists are using, or the people on the cliff? What size are they using?
Yeah, the smallest one that I'm aware of is 18 inches, and that's from propeller to propeller. Our particular drone is about 30 inches in diameter. And what scares me the most, I think, is coming up with a quiet or a silent drone. We're not going to be able to hear them come in or see where they're at. So be something to watch.
Yeah. Good. Any questions of the chief? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Okay, so we'll go on to D, the youth membership and city advisory boards.
So our city clerk, Linda's going to be presenting this one. So Linda.
Yes, this is in response to discussions that came out of the budget. During the budget hearings, there was interest in looking at opportunities to encourage more youth involvement, and that really sounds quick and easy, and is not. We currently only have one board that specifically allows for student members, and that's the Commission on the Environment. The thought in expanding those opportunities would be to come up with a consistent approach and apply that to any body that the council felt was appropriate. As I spoke with or reached out to other cities and asked about their approaches, noted that there are best practices also for working with juveniles, and there are requirements that come into play for staff that are overseeing something that has under 21 age members. So what we're going to walk you through is some of the issues that we have identified and would like to get direction from you. So this is the 8 primary advisory bodies that we have. 4 of them are established by ordinance, and 4 of them are established by resolution. You'll notice there are asterisks on that. The ones with asterisks are ones that staff would say could be considered as possibilities to add a youth member. At this point, we would not recommend either the Planning Commission or the Arkansas. Planning Commission is something that's defined by the state as well as our own ordinances. And we really don't feel like there's a place that a youth could really participate and have a meaningful role. The others, it is a possibility. What we would have to do with the two that are ordinances, they have bylaws, so we would have to revise their bylaws. That would go first to those bodies. They would vote on it, and then it would come to us, or to you, the city council. The others that are resolutions, we would then amend those resolutions. And so what we're looking for, if we had a policy, is a uniform way to make those amendments. And that would be the next piece. Sorry, I'm not the...
You're on.
So, in addition to asking you which bodies you feel are the best options for adding youth, we would like to know what are you considering a youth. This year, with the Commission on the Environment, we had someone come in who is a student at New Brighton and became aware of the fact that this is fairly young, and we did ask them to have their parents sign a consent release of liability, but the standard practices when you're working with younger members, we really would like to have guidance and have something in place. So depending on what ages you would recommend might have influence on how we would word things and where you feel they could participate well. I will say that the input that I've had from the staff person for the Commission on the Environment is that the middle school student has been a welcome and helpful participant in that process. The other is voting status. We do have a recommendation, should you, on this, that it be non-voting. Most of our commissions are set up to have an odd number and a quorum. Having a voting member that does not show up or that we are in the process of recruiting for can force you to cancel a meeting for lack of a quorum. So we do feel like it's not a position that, that we would want to add as a voting member. Residency requirements, because we only have one middle school here, and the thought is if we're doing a greater outreach, I based this recommendation somewhat on the Library Advisory Committee, which is the 2-mile radius. So that's where this recommendation came from, but it is certainly welcome to additional input and council discretion. And then for the length of the term, our committees have multiple terms, and one of the things I found, some of them do not have a term length, but I would recommend only a year, with the option, if they wish to return and reapply, that they could. But it feels like with for a student and a family to commit to more than 1 year's schedules change so drastically from year to year that it might be harder to recruit if you're looking for a multi-year commitment. So that is the rationale behind the 1 year. And we also feel like because they have their schedules established more around the school year, that it's probably most appropriate to recruit at the beginning of the school year when they have a sense of how much time they have and when they would be available. And then, as we mentioned, there are the issues of working with juveniles. Live scan fingerprinting, this is something that most of the cities responded to me that they do require, that the staff in charge, and in cases where they have an actual youth commission, any adults working with them would be live scanned, just to be certain that you know the background of the people that are responsible for the juveniles. There's also the state of California has mandated reporter, which means that you must be trained to recognize and report signs of child abuse and neglect. This is something that all of our police officers have, that we do with our recreation department, but this is something that as a best practice may be something that we should look at for the staff if they are regularly working with youth on their commissions. And then the issue of meetings that end, like as this one, later at night into the dark, clarifying the release of a student. If you've had children and you know that you've often signed and said, I'm picking them up, or just whether it is something that we want to define when the city is no longer responsible for that youth person? Is it when the meeting ends? Do the parents need to come and pick them up and sign them out? So that's something that we would also like your discussion and guidance. So we have a couple options. One is if you feel like this is something that is worth pursuing, and you want to delve into the issues of having staff responsibility, that's option A. So we would develop a policy, go back to those areas that we've talked with you, get guidance, and develop a policy that addresses all of the different elements. B is kind of the Hail Mary of, if a parent's there, we don't have to deal with that second slide of the responsibility for the live scan, the mandated training, that kind of thing. And C is if you feel like you may want to see if there are other options. Staff could go out and say, see if there are other possibilities. So at this point, we can go back to kind of start with the broad strokes of A, B, and C, and from there work to specific direction. Mike?
If we do go with the live scan, is that everyone on the commission has to have that, or just the staff member?
Staff.
Staff only. That's true?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have several questions.
Go ahead. Okay.
What would, if we're talking about non-voting youth members, are they still need to be Brown Act compliant? Do they still need to fill out the Form 700s if they're not going to be voting on anything?
No, if they are a non-voting member, then they would not have to. And part of the commissions that we are recommending tend to be the most of them, though we are looking at the possibility that the museum board may need to do Form 700. So if they are not a voting member and they do not have an influence on a vote, then they are not required to do those reportings.
Okay. And do we expect do we have any estimate of what the costs might be for additional live scan or mandated reporter training?
So the training I think we can cover within our existing, we have sort of training subscriptions, if you will. So it's really just staff time to sit through the online training. I think council members are familiar with those. Running the live scan and then having it update every year, it's a relatively minor cost, probably $100 per employee that we do that for. And I think we have, each commission has a dedicated staff person. So if we were to select, say, 3 of the commissions, it would be about $300 a year, I think, probably to keep the live scan active.
Okay. Have staff weighed in on this, like without naming any names? Has anyone provided, that sounds like something we're okay with, or that's something we don't want to deal with?
We haven't heard any objections to it. The city so most of the employees that the city has today were live scan when they were initially hired. What we haven't done is continuous updates. Maybe 1 or 2 employees who could be affected by this who were hired prior to that, but we haven't heard any objections.
It takes 2 minutes to do a fingerprint. I had to do it as a nurse. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Those were my questions for now.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak about this issue tonight? Then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back, Mike.
This is a tremendous idea. I'm far less concerned with the live scans than I am with having a minor in our care and waiting for the parent to come and pick them up. I think that's the part that makes me a little nervous. And having been a Little League coach and, having Little Leaguers gathered around me as I parse them out to the people who I had a reasonable, knowledge that they were the parents, it gets scary. So I kind of have a tendency to lean towards B, that the parent accompanies them to the meeting. And I would add another level to this. I think something that we miss, and we've always missed on Planning Commission and City Council, is having 1 or 2 youth nights a year where the middle school sends a student government representative to sit next to each council member throughout a meeting. Same thing with the Planning Commissioner. I think it's a great experience for them.
Shadow them for a day.
Shadow them. Well, perhaps meet during the day before the meeting as we prepare and sit in on a meeting with us. I've seen that happen in many cities. It's really beneficial. And I would also say that if we were going to do that, our radius not necessarily be 2 miles, but let's just say the Capitola Soquel Elementary School District, and leave it at that.
We didn't want to leave any homeschooled students out of the option, so.
And or homeschool students, sure.
That's where the radius was.
Okay. But, like I said, that's like one more level with the shadowing at a meeting. But I think that, in my opinion, B is the solid way to start this. Because I'd hate to eliminate a whole segment of the youth by saying they have to be over 18. That's just high school seniors or people like Cabrillo. That's not getting what we're looking for.
I know, but that doesn't give them the independence to go to a meeting and participate there. I would think that with part of the application should be some sort of a form with the parents that this is required, that you have to take this child and pick them up in a timely manner, and if this doesn't occur, then they will be kicked off the commission, because we have to have a safe system.
Well, I was just trying to eliminate both issues, the live scan, which I'm sure no one's objected to, but it is a level of personal intrusion for staff, and B would eliminate it. They don't necessarily have to sit in the meeting with them. They can be present, in the building.
Does that eliminate?
But nothing else is open in the building, for them to do.
I don't know.
I think Michael has raised some good points. I would note that no one on our administrative staff was hired because of their skills in working with youth. We have people that do that in the recreation program, but it certainly...
I think Larry is perfect.
We do have some people who are very good at it, who may coach in their spare time, but it isn't necessarily in folks' job description. It falls under other duties as assigned, right? So you do, on option B, you do nicely sidestep that issue. You sidestep the issue of, who's responsible for the child. So it is a relatively elegant way to do it. Mayor Harlan's point, though, that you're not giving somebody independence to participate, I think it's a fair point.
No, same thing. You ask them to come to a meeting and not vote. Who wants to do that? But I'd like to hear from Kristen, because this was your idea, so I'd like to hear your vision of what you would like to see here and how you think it could work.
I'm happy with the idea of option B. I think it is going to make it a little bit more difficult for people under 18 that want to do it, because then you have to convince your parents to essentially come to every single meeting that you're coming to. But I completely understand the reason for doing it, and it makes it easier on staff. And for now, I can understand why a youth would be a non-voting member. I think that they get a lot of experience, and just part of the opportunity to be a part of it, I think, could be exciting to some, I hope. Those are my thoughts as of now. I agree that option B would be...
What would you recommend? What would you like to do?
Of these options?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could go with option B. I think it makes it... And if it turns out that no one applies, no one wants to do this, or no one can do this because their parents don't want to come, then maybe option C is our backup option, is we look at something else, and maybe this...
Or option A. You could...
Or option, maybe, set a time, after the first school year round, we come back and reevaluate and say, did that work? And if not, what would?
Yeah, it'll be a work in progress.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I kind of in the general flow. I look at this obviously as a trial program. We're going to see how this works. I appreciate the concept. I'm a little concerned about, middle school. I guess maybe I feel more comfortable if somebody was in high school. I just want to feel like they're actually contributing. And I'm not saying that the person on the Commission on the Environment isn't, because they very well may be. I'm also concerned about how many committees we're going to try this on. And I think that I can see some obvious places where it's a good fit. Somebody on the library would be a great place for youth involvement, because I'd want to feel like they're there and they're actually contributing something. And definitely with our library, a big portion of the library, half the library is youth, or more. So that seems like a good fit. I was trying to follow the list you had up there, Linda, with which ones cause some resolution, some are ordinance, some are easier to acquire. There we go. So the library seems easy. It's a resolution. Is that the correct interpretation? It's easier with resolution than
Resolutions are the easiest,
Right.
yes.
I don't necessarily see traffic and parking. They're not driving. I mean, that one I don't get. My other one was, I like the museum, but that's an ordinance, so I don't know how difficult that becomes. And the other one was art and cultural. So those are the ones that I felt they would contribute something.
I'm very strong towards getting someone at art and cultural, regardless of it needing
Look
an
at the
ordinance.
artists we have it from New Brighton Middle School on the walls in the back.
That's a no-brainer. I mean, those three are the ones that I felt like it would be a good home to have, in addition to the Commission on the Environment, so we'd have a total of 4.
And the three that you were saying was art and cultural?
History,
and
library, and art and cultural.
I will say that there is some work with the history, but it's one of those, as I was looking at the History Museum, their bylaws need to be revised anyway.
Steve, so advice for us? That worms.
So I attend probably 80% of the Commission on the Environment, although Danielle runs it for me. The youth member there, I believe, and I'm trying not to give personal things away, a single-parent family with 2 children. So she's come a couple times and had her siblings sitting through the meeting, and I just want to make sure we think of that as if we're going to require the parent to be there. It's not always convenient. It's worked. I mean, it turns out that our staff member knows the family personally, so it's kind of worked out that way. But that is a concern to have, to tie the parents up along that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, would the Commission on the Environment's youth member the age?
Middle school?
Middle school.
We actually have one.
We actually have middle school and a high school.
So right now, we're kind of tap dancing around the requirements as it is.
Yes, we researched the best practices
Comforting.
after the fact in that case. So in the case that of a situation like that, the requirement could simply be guardian, and we could have a mechanism by which staff could assume guardianship, if you will, of an individual. So
Or there may be an older sibling that would be willing to come with the younger sibling,
Can we do parent or guardian, parent-approved guardian?
Or designated guardian?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could have a parent-approved guardian or parent-approved adult or something along those lines. I think that we could work with that in a situation where it doesn't necessarily have to be the parent. They could send the sitter. It could be someone else over 18 who's responsible for the child. That seems reasonable. And it may be that with art and cultural, we may be able to just amend the bylaws. We may not have to touch the ordinance. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm in favor of all of them, with the exception of parking and traffic, which I wouldn't, visit upon my enemies. I'm sorry. Sorry, Nels, if you're watching. He's my appointment. I think they're all applicable. I'd really like to see someone from middle school or high school attend finance advisory. I think it would be enlightening for them as well as ourselves.
I imagine.
A simple trial period. I was trying to just limit
a year.
Well, this is Kristen's idea. I'd like to
4 commissions with
I
a
know.
year. That's a pretty big bite of the apple.
I'd like to have Kristen lead this because this was her idea, and I'd like to have her tell us what she'd like to have, and we'll try that program and see how it works out.
Sure. I'm just really looking for anything that's going to get the opportunity for more youth to be involved if they want to be involved. And, of course, I want as much input as possible because, as mentioned, when I first brought it up, I thought, great, that's easy. Lots of cities have youth councils, and it's not so easy. Ironically, I thought traffic and parking would be something that youth might want to be on because of something like, I don't know, skating or bicycle safety. Right. But I imagine that finance advisory would be harder because I don't know a lot of youth who are just really stoked about accounting. Does our treasurer have any comments on that?
Sometimes it's hard for Mike to stay awake.
Which committees would you like to start with?
I would agree that the Planning Commission, Arc and Site, that's not, we don't need youth on those committees. I think Art and Culture would be a good one. I think Commission on the Environment we already have, which is fantastic. historical museum and library, and then I think it's up for discussion if we think that finance advisory and traffic and parking are a good place for youth members. But I would agree that definitely history museum, library, art and culture, and environment. So that's 4 now.
Would you be willing to add parking and traffic, and we'll see if we get any applicants? I mean, that's the thing, is we just have to try it, put it out there. And we will, we may be surprised or disappointed, but you don't know until you put it out there.
Yeah.
Can we advertise for applicants without changing the ordinance and see, as needed, as we bring them on, we can change things?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh. I anticipated that answer, but I thought I'd give it a shot.
I think we really would like to be consistent about what we're looking for and what the expectations are.
Then perhaps, not to overload the clerk's office, asking you to do 6, new resolutions or ordinances. How about as you produce the work product of the ordinance or the bylaw or the resolution, that we roll them in and just work our way through it?
Except that would be good to advertise all at once. This is our program, we're advertising for this, we'll roll it out, and we'll figure out the ordinances.
Maybe it would be better to do this and not to try it at the beginning of the school year, maybe the second semester in January, because we would probably have everything done by then and be able to advertise and...
Yeah. The recruitment can be once it's up and running. I mean, because we're already at the beginning of the school year. We realize that. It's just, I think, going forward, that's...
I think that's good. I think, as mentioned, the school year's already started. We don't want to just overload staff with all of these things that they need to do to kind of rush it out so that we can get people in for a full school year. We could start mid-school year, or, I don't know if it's what other thoughts are on spending this whole school year working it out and then starting it next school year.
Why don't we just start? We're never going to get anything done unless we start. So my suggestion is we give staff the priorities on which
what we
commission
need first
to start with.
is the policy, because that's the first thing I need to bring to you.
Step it down, and it doesn't even have to be January. When you do, I'd make art and cultural first, because we already have Commission on the Environment, art and cultural first, and as soon as that's done, then that's moving, and then the next one will be library, and then however the council wants to prioritize them, and just hit them one at a time as you produce the required documents.
The first piece is the policy, so that's what I would want to come back with you. So back to the direction of what grade level. It sounds like we are fairly consistent. We do like the idea of the 1 year. We do approve a non-voting member. Was there support for students residing within the SoCal
school district
boundaries? They don't have to be students of it, but just within that as the boundary.
Right, whether homeschooled or in one of the district schools, or the 2 high schools.
That does cut Aptos. Just as soon as you hit McGregor,
right?
That is not SoCal.
Correct. Well, they don't have any. They don't have any high schools in their district. But I think that we should list.
I'm just saying for the 2 mile 2 mile radius, you might get kids at Seascape.
I think we should just leave it at the school district boundaries.
Well, I don't want to deny a high school freshman or sophomore. So I was going to say Harbor, SoCal, and Aptos.
Well, SoCal would definitely be within.
That's in the Santa Cruz system. That's in the Santa Cruz school district.
Well, yeah, I know. What I'm saying is...
But the school is also located within...
To list those 3 as potential areas, because, we're going to be searching for youth to do this. I don't know if we're going to get a big onrush of applicants. So I want to be as inclusive as possible, and I think there's nothing wrong with including Harbor and Aptos in that list.
So rather than including the specific schools, probably the school district boundaries, because...
They're not going to probably be Capitola residents and know anything about Capitola.
That's okay. School district boundaries, we're not being too Capitola-centric here. We're talking about including youth in government, not Capitola necessarily youth in government.
Well, but they're going to be dealing with Capitola issues. So I think we want them to have some familiarity and some knowledge and experience in Capitola.
Well, how many SoCal High students do you think live in Capitola?
I don't know. We could ask, find out.
So I'm saying let's not eliminate a large portion of thoughtful youth.
I don't believe either of the Commission on the Environment students are Capitola residents.
Right.
How many of our residents go to Harbor High? Or Aptos High?
They have the choice. So
Most of them are SoCal.
yeah.
So this is something we would need to work out, is whether they're, City of Capitola residents or go to school within the City of Capitola. The clerk suggested within a 2-mile radius. We could pick a 3-mile radius, we could pick a 5-mile radius, or we could start naming school district boundaries. We could just say anywhere within the county. I think staff is agnostic on this. I think the question just becomes this balance between being familiar with the community and getting youth representation.
And if we have multiple applicants, we can certainly make a judgment and say, well, we have someone who lives in Capitola and goes to SoCal High. We may choose them over someone who goes to Aptos and lives in Aptos. So we still have that ability. I'm just trying to cast the net out more broadly so that we have potentially more
3-mile radius
response.
Well, I was going to say 2-mile radius, but include all the schools.
Right.
That gets everybody. So they're going to live close. They're going to know the community and be able to give us some good information, but whatever high school they go to doesn't matter.
Right. That's good.
The challenge with listing the schools is where do you stop? Because there's there's the bigger schools, and then there's private schools, and then there's
You got to
home
stop
schools.
somewhere. Just stop there.
Just do 3
Stop.
miles.
Yeah.
3 miles is going to bring in Harbor. It's going to bring in SoCal.
Right.
Will that bring in Aptos?
I don't think it'll bring in Aptos.
That's why I was going to say that the Capitola SoCal School District, and then name the 3 high schools closest.
And that's it. You might get some of Aptos because people might live within the 3 miles, not necessarily.
Well, we weren't talking about 3 miles. You were talking about the school district boundaries.
I was trying to go back to the
School district boundaries to pick up the middle schools and, Main Street School, SoCal Elementary. Well, not that that's going to happen, but the school district has nice, easy boundaries. We use it for our
Capitola SoCal School District and up to 3 miles.
No, not
SoCal School District
and the school, high schools.
and 3 high schools.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
You want to make a motion?
To start. That's my motion.
Did we come up with an age limit
And
or grade limit?
Are we going with B? Or were you going to try to modify?
I was going to start with B, and then we could always modify it to A.
But do we still need?
B, or with someone over 18 who's responsible for it.
Yes.
Correct.
And we can
So-
figure out the
But we
phrasing.
don't have any limit on, like if you're a 7th grader and you're 12?
Right.
We're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
There's no lower limit?
no lower limit. So all the commissions that you had asterisk, but to proceed as the resolution/bylaw/ordinances are written.
Yeah, well, the policy would say it can be all of these, but it will not necessarily.
Right.
Until we adopt the resolutions, we cannot.
It is within this is my motion is within the SoCal School District for high schools to include SoCal High, Aptos High, and Harbor.
And do we want to list middle school and high school students to encourage middle school students that it's open to them also? If they say just students, they might say it's just high school, but if we list
No,
middle.
we're talking about all students within the SoCal School District, which includes the middle schools.
That goes all the way up to Santa Cruz Gardens.
Correct.
Yeah,
and,
so I mean, it's a
and those
nice
3
wide
high
net.
schools.
Which would probably get you a lot of,
Right.
a
And
fair amount
option-
of harbor that would be interested in us would get
Option
that.
B, where a parent or a designated guardian is present with the child.
Do you want to make a motion?
I just did.
Yep. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good. Great start.
Okay,
Great
so then I will bring the policy back first, and then we will phase in resolutions as.
Right. We want the whole policy before we advertise for anybody.
That's all of our business tonight. Any last-minute thoughts, announcements, prizes, surprises? Then we are adjourned. And thank you all very, very much for being here tonight and watching.